The launch of Forged in Fog was easily one of the least popular chapters in Dead by Daylight's recent history. The new killer with this chapter was declared by many to be one of the worst designs Behaviour had ever released. Not for a lack of capability, but instead for the sheer boredom induced by his gameplay. For me personally, dear viewer, this was one of DBD's more tragic releases. The Knight, in my opinion, has a phenomenal character design. The animations are awesome, the sound design is brilliant, and the lore is fascinating. The problem is, this all falls apart at the gameplay. And that, by many people's estimations, myself included, is the most important aspect of any killer design. Today I want to explore a rework concept that would change the Knight's power by altering guard summons, introducing class roles, and reworking his selection of add-ons, all in hopes of making a character that's something more than a footnote in poor game design. One of my quick prefaces before we start. If you've seen my rework of the shape, then this is a similar situation. I've created a new power that hopes to maintain some of the themes of the old power, but it works in a new way. Explaining the details of a new power isn't as simple as explaining changes, and things may be unclear in places. If this is the case, I can only apologise. Feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I'll answer as quickly and clearly as I can. Now, on to the rework. When it comes to talking reworks of any kind, I usually like to talk about the problems as I see them. This way, you, dear viewer, can have an idea of the problems I'm trying to solve when proposing changes. The thing is, with the Knight, there are so many problems that I can make an hour-long video discussing them all. Instead, I'm going to highlight the main playstyles of the Knight, briefly discuss the problems with them, and then draw some conclusions. Starting with the first playstyle, Patrol Knight. This is where you draw a path and have your guards patrol the area in hopes of spotting a survivor. Cameron, no one plays Knight this way. There wasn't even a single bozo at launch doing this. Yes, there was, dear viewer, that was me. I was that bozo. I'm willing at this point to declare myself the world's foremost expert on this playstyle, given that I'm the only one I know stupid enough to even try it. And I can categorically tell you, it sucks. Given that survivors are given information on the patrol path and search radius, it's pretty easy to dodge the patrols. At best, this provides a small amount of slowdown, not great by any measure. Well, just remove the path and search radius and voila, this playstyle no longer sucks. Yes, but it'd also make playing against this killer even more frustrating, something we want to avoid. The next playstyle is what we'll call Mega Super Giga Turbo Zoner Extraordinaire. This is the most common form of Knight gameplay and the one that I imagine needs no introduction. Still, I'll give a brief overview with the assistance of this flowchart. As you can see, upon entering a loop, you place a guard in half a second. The survivor then has to leave the loop, otherwise they're guaranteed to lose a health state. Rinse and repeat until the survivor goes down. The fact that this gameplay can be explained using such a simple flowchart speaks volumes about how dull it is. Removing player agency and simply making always correct choice gameplay is the main reason this killer is so unpopular with so many players. The ability to zone isn't inherently bad. The trapper has a very limited capacity to do this by placing traps mid-chase. The problem with the Knight is that he's an extraordinary zoner. The combination of being able to very quickly summon a power that forces the survivor to leave a loop, and all in the easiest way possible, is what makes this playstyle so unpopular. The final playstyle is something that I've dubbed Spirit Knight. Explaining exactly how this all works would take too much time. In short, through a series of post-release changes and some wonky add-on design, it's possible for the Knight to dump a guard on top of a survivor with very little warning. If the guard is placed close enough to a survivor, they're guaranteed to be spotted by the guard, and the chase will ensue. This playstyle has a number of problems. First, dumping guards on top of a survivor mid-chase often leads to double chases. Unless the Knight player is very inexperienced, high, or otherwise distracted, these double chases act as a guaranteed health state. With no warning attached, this can lead to very one-sided gameplay that's completely uninteresting. A survivor can't be on neither side of a pallet or window, meaning that eventually they're guaranteed to be pinched, and their actions up until that point are meaningless. In other instances, a guard may be dumped on a survivor outside of a chase. This usually happens while they're performing a healing or repair action. In these instances, a chase is again almost entirely guaranteed, leading to two sources of frustration. 1. The survivor is hit by the guard, meaning the knight is rewarded with a health state despite not outplaying the survivor in a chase. 2. The survivor doesn't get hit because they can grab the standard in time. This is certainly a better scenario, but is also really boring harassment gameplay. The constant running around an obstacle until the standard spawns isn't exactly thrilling, and the very short cooldowns can lead to this being a near constant presence. In total, this playstyle can lead to free health states with very little warning or counterplay on the survivor's side. That kinda sounds like old Spirit, Cameron. It certainly does, dear viewer, and that's where the name comes from. In summary, whichever playstyle you use or encounter, the gameplay isn't usually considered fun, and leads me to one simple conclusion. The patrol system must be removed. Currently, it simply doesn't fit the game of Dead by Daylight, and simply leads to boredom and/or frustration, the worst combination for anything in a game. Okay, you may be wondering, but where does that leave us? Without patrols, the knight has no power. I'd suggest that rather than trying to make adjustments and salvage something from the patrol system, it'd be easier to simply develop a new version of Guardia Compagnia. One that keeps some of the identity of the old system, but without enabling the terrible gameplay that makes this character so unpopular. I'll break this down into different sections in hopes of making things clearer. First is the guard summons, the general systems and cooldowns that govern the power as a whole. From the very start of the trial, the knight would have the ability to swap between his guards at any point by tapping the active ability button. This is the same way that the clown is currently able to swap between the afterpiece tonic and the afterpiece antidote. With the knight, however, the guards would be cycled between the Carnifex, the assassin, and the jailer, in that order. At any point, while a guard is selected, they could be summoned to perform their class action by holding the power button. Think of this like the Nightmare's dream projection. The knight would need to look at the environmental cue before starting the summon. Then after the charging has been initiated, the knight would be free to look anywhere he wishes, while still holding the charge button. Each summon would take 2 seconds, during which the knight would move at 3.86 meters per second, giving any survivor he is pursuing a slight amount of distance in chase. Letting go of the power button at any point before the guard was fully summoned would cancel the current summon, and Guardia Compagnia would enter a brief 1-second cooldown. After being successfully summoned, the guard would perform their class action, and at the end of their action, Guardia Compagnia would enter a cooldown. A standard cooldown would be applied to all guard summoning. However, the guard that was most recently summoned would receive an extended cooldown, double the standard cooldown. For example, if the Carnifex was most recently summoned, all guard summoning would enter an 8-second cooldown. The Carnifex, however, would enter a 16-second cooldown. This way, a knight could summon the same guard twice in a row, but a more effective playstyle would involve using all available guards in equal measure. Sounds pretty simple, Cameron, but you didn't specify where or when guards could be summoned, nor what it is that guards do when summoned. Absolutely correct, dear viewer. That's what I hope to explain with this section. I call this aspect of the power class roles. Under the current version of Guardia Compagnia, all guards have certain strengths, but all guards are capable of performing any action. Under the new system, each guard would have a specific action that only they can perform. Let's take a look at what these class roles are. Starting with the Carnifex, the simplest of the guards. This guard could be summoned to any generator, visible thrown pallet, or visible breakable wall. This includes auras, within 12 meters, and perform the damage or break actions respectively. This would activate all associated perks such as Pop Goes the Weasel or Thwack. The Assassin could be summoned at the knight's current position in order to chase a visible survivor within 16 meters. After being summoned, the Assassin would immediately drop a standard and begin pursuing the marked survivor for 16 seconds at a speed of 110% or 4.4 meters per second. When the Assassin catches up to a survivor, he would injure them and inflict deep wounds, acting in the same way as the Legion's Feral Frenzy. The Assassin would be incapable of inflicting dying by striking a survivor. This means that the double chase scenarios could only be used to achieve an injury and could not have the capability to down a survivor. And no, the irony of an assassin not being able to kill isn't lost on me either, dear viewer. Further, upon striking a survivor, the knight would enter a 2.7 second cooldown in which the assassin is recalled. Anytime during a chase, when the assassin phases through a vault or thrown pallet, he would be briefly slowed, allowing a survivor to gain distance on him and reduce, but not remove, the ability to achieve hits outside of a double chase scenario. Finally is the Jailer, perhaps the most complicated of the class roles to describe. In short, the Jailer could be summoned to generators in order to patrol them. He could be summoned once per generator per trial. A generator would have a greenish aura in order to indicate that it's patrollable, reverting back to red once it's been patrolled. Upon being summoned, his search radius would expand to 32 meters over the course of 4 seconds, and remain in the searching position for an additional 2 seconds. Any survivor in the 32 to 16 meter range would be marked by Killer Instinct for 3 seconds. The first survivor to enter within the 16 to 0 meter range would be spotted. The Jailer would now work in a very similar way to how he does currently. Over the course of 2 seconds, he would move towards the spotted survivor's position and then begin chasing, moving at 4.2 meters per second or 105% for 16 seconds. Similar to the assassin, he would slow down anytime he phased through a window or thrown pallet, allowing a survivor to engage in some basic looping. Further, anytime the Jailer is chasing a survivor, all survivors within 20 meters of the Jailer would be marked by Killer Instinct for as long as they remain in the search range. Finally, if the knight enters within 16 meters of a survivor being chased by the Jailer would immediately be recalled and Guardia Compagnia would enter cooldown. Finally is a small new ability given directly to the knight himself. We're told in the lore that this beast of a man is unrivaled on the battlefield. So capable he is in melee combat that he managed to earn his own freedom from slavery. And yet in-game, his physical capabilities never surpass even the Legion, some caffeinated teenagers. So I've added a small extra bit to the knight, the parry. Anytime you're stunned by a pallet while performing a basic attack lunge, the knight will initiate a parry. Parrying will negate the stun and immediately break the pallet over the course of 2.2 seconds. This way, the knight himself has a chance to show off his own capabilities while in chase. In total, this rework seeks to retain the commanding nature of Guardia Compagnia, allowing the knight to delegate work to his guards whilst removing the patrol system that I believe to be the cause of so many problems. Overall, this power would still be more niche than other popular killers who focus on chase powers, but it could still be fun to play as and against, with the potential for a back and forth in the gameplay. Finally, it's time to talk about add-ons. The knight currently has a selection of add-ons that are mostly anywhere between meh and useless. Tragically, I think this is because most of the add-on design is focused around Patrol's Knight, a playstyle that nobody employs. Some add-ons manage to be better, but are simply useful because they work with Zoning or Spirit Knight. Given those problems, and that this rework concept entirely removes patrols, I think an add-on rework would be necessary. Cameron, don't tell me you've reworked all of the Knight's add-ons just to prove you get no bitches. No, dear viewer, of course not. I've reworked them to prove that I get no maidens. The first of the brown add-ons is the Tattered Tabard. This one increases the assassin's movement speed by 5%, taking it from 110% to 115%. Next, the Pillaged Mead increases the range that the Carnifex can be summoned to by 4 meters. This would mean that the Carnifex could break or damage things up to 16 meters away. The Map of the Realm increases the range at which the Jailer can apply Killer Instinct by 4 meters. This would apply to both generator patrols and whilst the Jailer is chasing a survivor. The Gritty Lump provides a small chase bonus to the knight the more pallets he manages to parry. It acts like a mini coup de grace, but with no limit to its usage once the tokens have been built up. Starting off the yellow add-ons is the Treated Blade. This one allows the knight himself to inflict deep wounds anytime the assassin is actively chasing someone. The Dried Horse Meat increases the speed with which a parry is performed by 10%. This takes the time from 2.2 seconds to approximately 2 seconds. The cold steel manacles allow for the jailer to patrol a previously patrolled generator. This can only be done once per trial, improving the knight's ability to defend a specific target. The call to arms will recharge Guardia Compagnia, including extended cooldowns if the knight is stunned by a pallet. This also includes parrying. A successful parry would activate this add-on. The Battle Axe head grants the knight some information on generator progress anytime the Carnifex destroys a pallet or breakable wall. This will give the knight an idea of where survivors are repairing generators. First of the green add-ons is the Town Watch's Torch. This one temporarily reduces the knight's terror radius after he summons a guard. Not too useful in chase, but if a guard is summoned outside of a chase, this can help get the drop on a survivor while you're approaching them. The Ironworker's Tongs allow the jailer to apply the Oblivious status effect anytime he marks a survivor with Killer Instinct. He can do this either during a generator patrol or whilst chasing a survivor. The Grim Iron Mask applies the Blindness status effect to anyone that interrupts regression on a generator that was damaged by the Carnifex. This effect could potentially apply to multiple survivors at once, if they're cooperating on repairs, and stop the regression together. The Chainmail Fragments grants the knight a small amount of haste for a brief time after a successful parry. This will increase the speed with which he can catch up to a survivor after destroying the pallet. The Broken Hilt allows either the knight or the assassin to inflict mangled and hemorrhage for an extended period after hitting a survivor. This effect only occurs if the assassin is actively chasing someone. Onto the purple add-ons, we're starting with the Lightweight Greaves. This one simply grants the knight haste after summoning the jailer, very similar to how it works now, only with some changes to the numbers. The Healing Poultice has been reworked to now, under certain circumstances, inflict survivors with the Broken status effect. This can occur whenever the assassin is summoned to chase a survivor. The Flint and Steel has been altered slightly to fit with the new version of the Carnifex. Now the aura reading has a much more limited range, but also applies to unfinished generators. The Blacksmith's Hammer has been reworked to allow the knight to inflict Exhausted. This occurs whenever a survivor throws a pallet and their pallet is parried by the knight. The first of the iridescent add-ons is the Knight's Contract. This one inflicts a custom status effect called Haunted, similar to how the Doctor's Iridescent Queen inflicts the Static Charge. In this instance, however, Haunted will activate whenever a survivor enters the Knight's terror radius. When doing so, the survivor will scream and have their aura revealed, making it similar in effect to the perk Ultimate Weapon. Finally, the Iridescent Company banner is a little strange. This one removes the extended cooldown, meaning all guards enter a standard cooldown after any of them are summoned. However, it also increases the duration of the standard cooldown with the ability to reduce this duration. Making a conscious effort to vary the guards you summon will allow you to decrease the cooldown of all guard summons. Essentially, after a bit of setup time, this add-on allows you to ignore the extended cooldown on guard summons. This add-on selection seeks to improve aspects of each of the guards and the knight in several ways. The guards can be made more effective at performing their class role, or apply further effects through their actions. Further, some add-ons seek to improve the knight and his parry in subtle ways. Overall, this selection hopes to offer a number of potential strategies and synergies, allowing for more interesting and varied playstyles when playing as or against this killer. That's it for this one. I've tried something a little different with this rework concept. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment or make a forum post and send a link. Whatever your ideas are, I want to hear them. I don't make this video to declare my ideas as gospel or something, I just hope to maybe inspire some conversations. By discussing our ideas and putting them together, we can get that bit closer to making DBD the best version of itself. Thank you very much for watching, dear viewer, and I hope to see you in the next one.